Hi everyone, my name is Melanie, and I'm not sure really why my voice is not syncing up with my lips, but I'm going to get right to things here and start my presentation on scheduling and posting to Instagram. Okay. Hello everyone, my name is Melanie Stoppler, and I am a VA and a social media expert here at Flourish. I'm coming to you today from Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and this is my first presentation, so please bear with me. Also, it's probably important to note that I am getting over a cold, so if I cough a little bit, I apologize. My presentation today is on scheduling and posting to Instagram. So let's get started. So the key points that we're going to talk about today is staying on brand, knowing your audience, optimizing your profile, creating a plan, creating and curating some killer content, and scheduling. Let's start with building your brand on Instagram. So what you want to do is determine what makes you unique and find your niche. It's really important that you're authentic, and if you try and copy someone else, your audience can see through that really quickly. Now, I don't want to discourage you from looking at what your competition is doing or what other people are doing that are having success on Instagram, but I really want to encourage you to be true and unique to yourself and really hone in on what makes you you when you're creating your brand. You also want to be consistent with your messages, images, colors, fonts, and logos, and always offer some valuable and relevant content. So the components of your brand, your logo, tone, tagline, font, images, messaging, etc., are created by you to reflect the value that you're trying to bring to the market. So this is how you actually set yourself apart from everyone else and how you're going to create a community of engaged and loyal followers on Instagram. Now we're going to touch on knowing your audience. This is a really important part of social media and marketing in general. If you have not already done so, I would suggest that you create your ideal client avatar and really hone in on what creates your client and be as specific and as detailed as possible. If you want to take it that one step further, I would even suggest trying to write out, a day in the life of your ideal client. Think about what their daily routine is, and that will also help you really figure out what your ideal client is doing and what your audience is doing. It will help you determine when they're on social media, what types of hashtags they're using, what other accounts they're going to follow, those types of things. I would recommend that if you don't know your audience really well, that you spend some time on that. There are some other experts besides myself in Flourish that can help you out with that. So I'd suggest that if your strong suit is not knowing your audience, that you take some time and really figure that out. Now let's talk about setting some Instagram goals. Knowing what your goals are and what your end game is really important, not only in social media, not only important in Instagram, but also really important in social media in general. So these goals are just a few suggestions. These are some of the goals that I'm sharing with you that my clients have. You are definitely not limited to these goals, but if they resonate with you, you just want to make sure that you're thinking about your goals, basically. So a few goals are just, we're out here to sell products and services, build a community, increase awareness, showcase your company culture and values, advertise, brand loyalty, and spread some news and updates about your business. Now what you want to do is create that killer profile. It's really important to have an awesome profile and write a really great bio, because this is your first impression. This is the first thing that a potential follower sees when they decide to follow you or not. So you really want to capitalize on your profile. So first, definitely write that awesome bio. Be clear and concise. Stick to your brand. Think about your audience and be true to yourself. Also, you want to include a link. Okay, this is the only clickable link on Instagram that you have access to, so you really want to use this real estate wisely. Your link should be to your website, your Etsy shop, your Facebook page, whatever it is that you really want to direct your audience or customers to go to. So a little tip I will share, if when posting or promoting you have the time, what you want to do is include that specific listing on your Instagram bio. Okay, so if you're promoting a certain product, change your bio link to include that Etsy listing or that web page link that's going to direct your consumers directly there. You can also use the link to direct people to your Facebook page. So if you are doing a Facebook group giveaway or trying to create some traffic in there, don't be afraid to send your audience to that link either. Okay, so just really use this link wisely. Also in your profile, you want to have a theme, and that theme should consist of some quality images and messaging. So don't just take a random picture that has no meaning to your brand or your audience, does not fit in with your theme or your product, and if it's blurry or too dark or overexposed, don't use it. So I'm not saying all of your photos have to be professional photographer photos, but they should be decent quality images. And in your profile, if you'd like to include, a headshot of yourself, that would be great. This also helps to create a little bit of engagement and connect the barrier between you and your client, or your audience. So it's going to create a little bit more of a personal touch. If you don't have a great headshot or a picture that you want to use, something that isn't, appropriate for your brand image, then maybe use a picture of one of your favorite products or your logo or something like that. So now let's start planning. Let's create a calendar. Let's brainstorm here, because failure to plan is planning to fail. So what I like to suggest to my clients is that they create a personalized calendar. This would be for clients of mine that I'm not managing their social media, but if it's a client that I'm doing a social media review for, or a little larger package where I do an overall of your social media, what I would recommend is that you use a personalized calendar. So this calendar should include the days of the week that you want to post, the frequency you plan to post, what time you want to post, and it can also include certain themes or hashtags that you want to follow week through week. So an example of this might be, let's just see, say you're using Motivational Monday. That's a really big hashtag, a lot of followers on that one. So you probably wouldn't want to use it because it's probably in the millions, but just for the sake of this example, if you're using Motivational Monday, you may just want to keep your posts on Mondays in line with that, okay? And you could just include this on your calendar, and it just helps you to plan. Some tools that you may want to consider using include Trello, Google Docs, Microsoft Word, Excel, Google Sheets. Perhaps you are a pen and paper kind of person. I have a notebook sitting beside me where I do a lot of brainstorming and planning. You could also use your Flourish day timer, really anything that works for you, as long as it makes sense and it's organized in your mind. And then next, what we're going to do is brainstorm. So in the next couple slides, I have some categories that you can brainstorm under, but I want to remind you that only 20% of your posts should be self-promotion. So besides including your own original content, you're going to think about curating other people's content. Okay, so I curate content all the time. I'm on social media all the time. So when I see something that's relevant to my brand or to one of my clients, I make a point of copying that URL or taking a screenshot, whatever it is, and then putting that into my content calendar. Because I do have a place where it shows, the days of the week, but then this is where your brainstorm page on your calendar really would come in handy, or that notebook where just as you see ideas, you copy and paste them, you insert them, you upload them, you write them down, indicate where you found them, different pages you might follow. So keep all those ideas in one spot, okay? So it doesn't matter if it's a fancy calendar or an app like Trello. You can definitely do it in a notebook, but you definitely want to be creative and always be keeping track of those ideas. And I find that if you do it in one place, you're not going to be sitting there one day wondering where you saved that link, or I had a really great idea, but now it's gone, I can't remember. In addition to sharing other people's content, you want to set aside some time in your plan to review your analytics. So analytics are important because as the person posting, and because it's your brand, you want to know what content is performing well and what type of posts are performing well. So set aside some time once a week and just look at your analytics, and it will really help you with planning your posts through the week. So now we can get into some of those content categories that you're going to be brainstorming with. On my content calendar, I use an Excel spreadsheet. You can do this on Trello. You can do it wherever you want. Again, I don't want you to think that you have to go out and buy something or use something fancy, but I just have a spreadsheet where I have my categories listed, and then when I am brainstorming, I just start to write all my ideas down. So when we talk about inspiration, this one is a pretty obvious category, but it's anything that really resonates and hits home with your audience, okay? Also, I want to mention that your posts should have a positive theme. Posts that are positive, if your Instagram feed is on the negative side, it may be more difficult to grow your following. So inspirational quotes, inspirational articles, just in general posts that, cause inspiration, whether that's sharing someone else's story or maybe sharing your own story, something that will hit home with your audience. Another category that's great is questions. So these are not only great conversation starters and icebreakers, but they're also an awesome way to find out what your audience wants to see more of. So use the questions. They can be simple, they can whichever, but you want to make sure that your questions, it's a call to action, but sometimes you want to be careful when you are posting questions that they're not too open-ended, because your following may be less likely to really dive in with their comments. I'm not saying that's the case for everyone, but if you're doing, a question like ham versus turkey for the holidays, comment below. It's pretty obvious what you should comment. You might get people that write different things, maybe a vegetarian, you can include that, but let the audience know in your question posts how you'd like them to respond. So another type of post is lifestyle posts. These are a great way to bridge that gap between the audience and yourself. It's a great way to make a personal connection. So what you want to do is maybe post a behind the scene photo, or, throw out something new that you're working on. Maybe you want to include a picture of your cat, something like that, as long as it fits with your brand and it resonates with your audience. Next, we have tips and tricks. So tips and tricks are short little tidbits of insight where you can really showcase your genius And these should appeal to your audience, okay? So think about it when you're posting to a group of mompreneurs. Maybe some tips and tricks could be, mom hacks. So just something that resonates with your audience. It doesn't necessarily have to be specific to your product, but it should be in line with your brand and should resonate with your audience. And the next one is the contests and giveaways. So these are different from just self-promotion, but these are great to create buzz around your products and get people talking about you and your business and your different products that you have. So it's a great way to get people curious. It's a great way to grow your following. And it's a really great way to collaborate with other creatives and just be creative and have fun with the contests and giveaways. Also, there's other people's content. So for this, if you're maybe talking about someone who's an influencer in your industry or a mentor, you can share something that they've done. Whenever you're sharing content, I just want to remind people that if you do not give credit for someone else's ideas, it is stealing. It is no different than stealing one of your designs or something like that. So just make sure we give credit, because I know we all hate it when people steal from us. Okay, so next we want to talk about business promotions. That's another category. So the really great thing about including this in your content calendar is that when you are promoting and selling your business, you can plan for it. So if you're doing some promos, what can you do in the days and weeks leading up to your promos to create that buzz and curiosity? Okay, so keep that in mind when you're doing your brainstorming around self-promotion. So now that we've got some content categories and some ideas and we've done some brainstorming, you want to think about writing a great post. So what makes a great post? You want to be consistent with your brand colors, fonts, and filters. Okay. You want to use captions and descriptions so long as it's in line with your brand. Another thing is, using words that are in line with your brand. Your messaging, you don't want to swear on your posts if it's going to alienate your audience. Some audiences, it works great. Go for it. All within reason. But for some audiences, it can really alienate them. So just make sure that you're aware of that when you are putting your messaging and your captions out there. You also want to post consistently. And posting consistently is where having a calendar helps, because you know what you're going to post Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday kind of thing. You can determine if you're going to post 1 time a day, 2 times a day, whatever it is. And then you want to also keep in mind your analytics when you're writing a great post. And that's why we set aside time every week to review your analytics, because there's no sense repurposing content or sticking with posts that don't perform well and don't resonate with your audience. Okay, so moving on from analyzing your analytics, you want to be repurposing that content that does work well. Okay, kick out of the rotation the stuff that doesn't work and keep the stuff that does work. I want you to remember too that that you're writing a lot of content, you're sharing a lot of stuff, you're doing a lot of posting. When we say repurpose your content, sometimes there's stuff that performs really well that you should just reuse that post. Okay, so we know that not everybody sees absolutely everything for every person that they follow. So keep that in mind when you are reusing your posts, and especially when you're reusing posts that work well. I'm not saying you should post the same thing every day, but if you want to post the same thing, something that's worked really well, a week or 2 weeks later, that's not a big deal. I know a big influencer in my industry, he posts the same quote every single Monday morning. And he continues to have, hundreds of thousands of people like that quote every single week. So, when you're reusing and repurposing your content, you want to be methodical about it, and you don't want to overload their feed with the exact same stuff. But if something's performed well, keep it in mind and keep it in your social media library. And so when we're writing posts, we always want to remember that we should be focusing on how our product serves our audience, okay? Don't talk about self-benefits for you. You know, if you buy this, that's great, but because obviously there is benefits for you, but you really want to talk about how your product or service is benefiting your audience. And then what we want to include is always, always, always in Instagram, include a call to action. So a call to action might be click the link in my bio, like this picture, or tag a friend in this picture, comment below. Those are great ways to, you know, incorporate engagement with your audience. So we're always using a call to action, and we're always thinking about engagement. Excuse me. Keep that call to action fairly simple too. Not that you want to be bossy with your followers, and you know, don't ask them necessarily to follow you. That is a little bit sleazy, I find. But when you are doing a call to action, you know, comment below. What's your favorite, ham or turkey? You know, it's obvious what the two choices are, and when you put it right in front of their face, people are more likely to comment. So that's just something to keep in mind when you're thinking about it. I know that there are lots of other industry experts in marketing and Instagram that agree that the audience is more prone to take action if you tell them what the action should be, okay? So now let's talk hashtags real briefly. Excuse me. There's a lot that we could discuss when we're talking about hashtags, but one thing that I want to suggest is maybe considering doing, you know, 20% of your hashtags at the max based on the description of your feed. So for example, if your Instagram feed, you know, you've got a lot of your audience is really into, say, coffee or wine drinking. If you're, you know, doing pictures of that or including stuff like that, there might be people that aren't necessarily your customer or audience yet, but might kind of like your feed. So that's where, you know, you might want to include hashtags like, you know, coffee addict or something like that that may apply to not just your audience, because it might include your audience, but it might just include people that like your Instagram feed purely for the aesthetics of it. Next, 60% of your hashtags should be customer centric. So these are hashtags that apply to your customers only. So this is kind of like your SEO. When you're doing keyword searches and keyword descriptions, you want to think about what words your customer is going to look for to find you. So you really want to be specific with some of these keywords. If you're a handmade seller on Etsy, you know, and you're selling jewelry, you would probably want to use hashtags that are more specific to jewelry and people that are shopping for jewelry, opposed to, you know, support handmade or Etsy seller. Now, there is a place for those hashtags should you choose to use them, and they come in handy when you're growing your following on Instagram. These are community-related hashtags, and at a maximum, you would want to do 20% community-related if you choose to incorporate this. So this is where, you know, support handmade or Etsy seller would come in to play, because this is going to help you grow a supportive community of like-minded people. Okay, so if you've used a few of those, don't think it's bad, but you just don't want to overuse those hashtags that would appeal more to you than to your consumer. Okay, so moving on from hashtags. One thing also I wanted to talk about really quickly before we move on is when we talk about writing a great post, and we mention using consistent brand colors, fonts, and filters. One thing to keep this really easy and to streamline your process is to use a program such as Canva or Insight or Photoshop. There's a few out there that you can use where you can create like a brand template, and you can have a brand template that you're going to use for Instagram and for Facebook or for Pinterest, where you have your brand's colors, your fonts, different backgrounds or watermarks, whatever it is you're choosing to use, but that can keep it consistent. So when it comes time to schedule your posts and you say that you're going to post a quote, it's really easy for you to go into Canva or Photoshop and just put the quote on that template. So one thing that I do as well is I will have a brand template that I might use for quotes and a brand template that I might use for. So now that you know what makes a great post, here's a few suggested post ideas. So a few things you might want to do would include asking a question, posting a selfie, maybe a behind the scenes picture of you or your workspace. You might want to thank your customers or celebrate a milestone, ask for feedback on a new product, post a tip or a strategy, share your favorite book, blog or magazine, etc. Post a client review, and another one might be introduce yourself. So these are just a few suggested post ideas, and where these differ from the content categories that we discussed earlier is this is where you take that content and you really own in on it and write that post. So this is where you would, in your brainstorming, you've got your categories, you've got your themes, what type of post you want to include, things like that. This is where you actually would write that caption or description for your Instagram post, okay? And I've just included here a picture of my content calendar. This is what I use, and I tailor this to suit my clients' needs. I'm an Excel or a Google Sheets person. I really like using spreadsheets. It helps me keep things organized. That's not to say that I don't use Trello or like Trello. There's a whole bunch of other things you can use, your day timer. You can use other third-party apps, Hootsuite, Buffer. There's a whole array of different tools that you can use. But I just wanted to show you a sample of mine while I'm talking about this. And bottom line is that whatever tool you use, or Scribbler or whatever it is, you want to make sure to include the frequency of posts per week, the time of day that you're going to post. You want to leave room for, that caption or description so you don't have to think about it at the time of posting. It's already done. And by doing this, it's really nice to be able to copy that text at the time of the post so I don't have to think about it. You can also include hashtags in here. I'm not sure if I already mentioned that, but spend a little time while plugging in your ideas and make sure that you have like a cohesive theme, you have pictures, captions, everything all included in that schedule. This is just a Monday through Friday schedule, but I do post Sunday, like every day of the week. On the bottom of my calendar, I also include upcoming dates that are important to think about. So, in November, I had Black Friday, Cyber Monday, Small Business. Sorry, excuse me. Small Business Saturday, Thanksgiving, the election, things like that when you are planning your content, if you can plan ahead for big dates, that's a good idea, because planning, it also leaves room for those one-offs, but it's nice to know, okay, yeah, people are planning for whatever it is. And if you've already got a post in mind, then that, makes things just that much easier for you. And you can talk about things leading up to those big dates. On your content calendar, it's not pictured on or included on mine. I just want to remind you also to take some time in your day to look at your analytics, do some engagement, and maybe do a little bit of audience and hashtag research. I would suggest scheduling some time weekly for this. I like to do my analytics on Friday or whatever it is, and then I do engagement in the middle of the week, and then I do research maybe on a Sunday, and just look at different trends and make sure I'm up to date in what is happening in my industry. By doing this a little bit each week and doing, one day you focus on this and the other day you focus on that, that will really help save you some time and some energy so that when it comes time to post, you're all set to go. You just have to plug it into Instagram and you carry on with your day. Because planning and scheduling for your Instagram, creating your content, doing all of that is such a creative process. I think why it's easier when you have a calendar or when you have some time set aside to plan it like this, it's easier because being creative, it's hard to turn that light switch on and off. And I find that, at least for myself, maybe you guys are different, but once I'm on a roll, I can hash out a whole bunch in an hour or two. But if I have to, fit it in 15-minute little snippets of my day, then that's when it gets really difficult and really overwhelming. So I just want to say again, sprinkle a little bit of Instagram throughout your week and it will not feel near as overwhelming or stressful. And you will find that once you start doing this week after week, you're going to get better and better of it. And eventually you'll be planning your content monthly or maybe even, a couple months at a time. So now we should talk about some third-party scheduling tools. I've mentioned some of the free stuff out there or, Microsoft or Word documents and calendars and things like that, Trello. But there's also some third-party scheduling tools that I want to mention. And this includes just a few of these that are mentioned on the slide. There's a whole bunch out there. But what I want to say about third-party apps is that they're great for a lot of different reasons. And there are a lot of different tools that do a lot of different things for you. Not all third-party tools will actually upload your Instagram posts. So I want you to keep that in mind. Scheduling for Instagram is different than, say, scheduling for Pinterest or Facebook. Those schedulers, you plan your post, you write it out, and then you hit schedule, and they automatically upload it to the platform when it's scheduled. Not all Instagram scheduling tools are created equally, okay? So out of the ones listed, I think the only one, and I could be wrong on this, that actually uploads your posts for you might be Schedugram, but I'm not sure, so don't quote me on that. I do use Hootsuite. I really like it for managing multiple accounts, but that doesn't mean it's necessarily the right tool for you. So basically, many of these tools will help you schedule and manage your Instagram, especially if you do manage multiple social media accounts across different platforms. And many of them will allow you the possibility to schedule and write your posts in advance. So you can write it on your desktop, which is one thing that I really like. I don't always like doing it from my phone, but they only send you a reminder to post. So while these tools may or may not upload your actual post to Instagram, they do offer you some accessibility to Instagram from your desktop or from within their program. They usually offer some analytics. You can upload a picture that way so that when they do send you the reminder, what it is that picture is then saved to your phone as well as your caption, like any description or text that you've included to go with it. So basically all it is you click on the reminder that they've sent you, the push notification, and it will ask you if you are in your Instagram account. You click yes, so long as you are in your Instagram account. if you manage other people's, that's more of a problem. But if it's just your Instagram, then it should be fine. And then what happens is it'll let you know that it's been saved to, the text has been saved to like your clipboard, and it opens it right into Instagram, right to the upload the picture, and then you just paste your text and then you upload it, okay? So that's actually pretty easy, and I like that I get the reminder at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so I don't have to watch the clock and think about doing it. So these scheduling tools, while they don't all actually upload to Instagram, they are still really helpful. And they're also very visual. So for example, when you're using Hootsuite, and some of the other ones offer this as well, I'm just using Hootsuite because that's what I'm using right now. But it does allow me to see my feeds, and I can see my Instagram feed. I can also have a stream where I can see what my followers or what I've liked. I can also follow trending hashtags or specific hashtags that I want to follow. So there's a lot of things you can do from these programs, and it will allow you to schedule. Pardon me, not schedule, I just read that word. It will allow you to comment and like off of this platform. So if you're doing that from your desktop, it's kind of nice. And it helps with when you're doing your engagement, if you want to do it from your desktop versus your phone or your device. Ultimately, though, what I really recommend, though, is if you are considering using any of these third-party scheduling tools, is that you really do some research before you commit. One thing I do when I'm researching some of these applications is I will Google, Buffer versus Planoly. And quite often I'll get a review or a critique will come up, and it'll have, more than even just Buffer and Planoly on there. And they generally do a pretty nice job of breaking it down, and then you can see what each of these tools tick off for you. Generally, these tools are an investment. Some of them do offer free or low-cost introductory plans or like a 7-day trial, but they definitely generally are an investment for your business. So I'd like to conclude with, I really think that automation is a great tool for social media, and I'm very much for it because I am a social media manager and I do a lot of social media. But so long as you have a plan for your Instagram scheduling and posting, things are going to feel a whole lot easier for you. The toughest part really is coming up with the content and creating that schedule so that you have that cohesive theme that we all want on Instagram. If you take that time to be creative around your content, theme, post ideas, and schedule your content, then you're going to come up with that cohesive theme so much easier, and it's going to be much more in line with your brand and your audience than when you just, throw a post up. Or, even for myself, I do social media all day, every day for clients, but when it comes to posting for myself, I haven't always been so great at creating a plan. So I can say that for me, when I have a plan, because that's what I do for my clients, it's a whole lot easier to stay on top of posting versus when I don't have a plan. Even though this is what I do for my business, it's really hard for me to think about what I'm going to post that's value added content for my audience that is in line with what my business is. So scheduling and planning is super important when it comes to Instagram. Not only Instagram, social media probably in general, and it will really allow you the time that you need to focus on your business and your higher priorities, the things that are more important to you than posting on your social media. So at this point, I am going to wrap. I think I could talk and talk and talk on Instagram for a long time, and I don't want to keep you guys because I know that you're all very busy. Anyways, I hope that this presentation will help you with your Instagram and with your scheduling and posting. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. I am in the social media event, or you can tag me in the Flourish group. Also, feel free to send me a private message if you'd like to talk a little bit more. And if you're looking for some additional Instagram or social media help, please check out my website. I've included a link to my 30-minute mentor calls, excuse me, and some of my other media packages. So give me a shout, and I hope that you guys enjoyed my presentation and that there was some value, and I will see you in Flourish.
Okay. Thanks, everyone.